in our description of climbs is the info bureau. Now, this is what everybody's going to get to when they start coming off to the park. It's the famous top roping area. It's down here to the lower right of the hump. And climbers in the future will probably wonder why the name. So off to the right was where the old information bureau that used to, before the fire, was. So that was the name of this crag. Now this has been, all these routes have been led at some time or another. It's basically a top rope area, so there's no pressure to put lead bolts in for everything. Maybe at some time there can be consensus about what to do for that. But right now, top rope area, and everybody's sort of happy with that. So the main spots are all determined by the top anchors. So you can scramble around off to the right, and then it's just a nice walk up to the ledges here to get here. Now you do have to watch out for the sheep. They hang out up here, so if you're climbing, wear a helmet because the rocks roll off easy and you never know when the sheep are going to wind up. So I'll go off this with the anchors, and I won't worry about route names. They're probably in the guidebook somewhere, those arbitrary names. Been climbed for years, like I said, by climbers pounding in pins in the top anchors, and then probably Brent Kozachenko pounded the first chain in here in the sort of late 80s, 1990s, sometime around then, I think, is when that chain went in. And then there's now a chain anchor right here that are tied together. So this is probably the first route that you'll can get to. So this is a pretty nice one, nice straight rope access down to the bottom. And then there's this old ring bolt that is in a totally useless place for anyone who has ever lead climbing. The rock in here used to be molar tooth limestone, so super sharp. Now it's getting almost polished under these main roots, so definitely finger friendly. But that didn't happen for many, many years. So this is a nice route. It's probably a little bit harder, I think, than the one right here under the chains. Okay. And then there's also two bolts here over to the roof. And so the difficulty of this one just depends if you're pulling the roof or not. So the chains are set up where you can do it. You get like 2 feet above the anchors, but you got lots of rope out if you're top roping. And rock's a little bit looser up through here, so a lot of climbers will just stop when they get to the roof. My favorite ones are actually here, right down here. And so this one has a nice layback on the, or sort of pinches and sideways movements, not laybacks up here before you get to the jugs, and then it gets to this anchor right up top. And this anchor you need to sort of be roped in to get to it safely. Chain man, I never mind sort of stepping down and getting to that anchor. We used to just go off this left side to anchor that, but now there is another tied together chain anchor right here. So up off the top you'll see 2 sets of bolts about 20 feet back. Those are pretty much, I think, just in like 2020, pounded in. And so those were probably put in by the wardens. Training practice is my guess. And so they make a nice place where you can tie into those and then wrap down to set your rope up off these, or just use a second rope so you're safetied in when you go put your top rope through here. These are all ring bolts, so you can just go directly off the rings. We don't have that much traffic in Waterton, and it makes pulling your ropes easy. There's another set of those ring anchors over here, and that does this climb. And then there used to be an angle pin somewhere over here, and I think I probably need to put another set of bolts right there to get these sort of easier climbs, because right now you head up here and then you sort of have to go right, and the rope doesn't line up perfect for the easier terrain. So we'll probably continue to see more top anchors here at the Information Bureau. Now, don't need to do too much more. I think all the pictures are pretty straightforward. So the scramble, you should see it, trying to remember if it goes up here or where these trees are, since they burnt out. I can't quite remember. Anyway, it's just right there, you're going up. Now right here, there's actually 2 bolts right off the top that are set fairly far apart. And that's for this beginner area. It always used to be very prickly down here, but since the fire, this area should be more popular. The starts are hard, so you can sort of weave your way through and then go left, and that's easy. But the main thing was this rock up in here. It's just gorgeous climbing. Nice in cuts. Still very sharp, but like I said, the other routes softened up with use, so these ones should. I think there probably needs to be, right now it's set up for 1 rope, and you can sort of do 2 climbs on either end. way the rope lays is kind of odd on these ones, so it's hard to set the top anchors up properly or establish them. So you put your rope in and you think you're in the right spot and you're happen to be a couple feet off the line you were trying to get. It doesn't matter because unless you're putting the anchors in, you're sort of going off those two bolts. So eventually these two bolts need to be separated into distinct anchors because there's a couple climbs here. And over here I think it's probably reasonable to pound some bolts in uh, to set this up as a beginner lead area. I think the overhanging stuff here, it's been climbed forever. This stuff hasn't. And it's great gear up top. So as long as you have like one or two bolts up there, I think they would make reasonable climbs. The other stuff you're going to have to think long and hard about how to either climb it on natural gear like everyone has, because I think all the main climbs will go on natural gear. So how do you put in a bolt to sort of manage the safety levels? That's not easy to figure out, and that's sort of one of the main questions here in Waterton as to what you do. And there you can see the climbs, one sort of up this side and then one sort of up that side. And I think that's about it. Andy's roots. So Andy Jensen spent an entire summer top roping this thing every day at lunch when he was working at Tamarack Mall. So it's probably like a hard 11, maybe a 12, I don't know. I never made it up it all the way. He would make it up to the crux and stop. And he worked at it and made the crux. So that's a nice route. You'll always see people flailing right there. And now that the bushes are gone, maybe another route can come up here to the right. But that's sort of that history of that area. There's Andy's summer right up there. And there's two bolts up top for that Andy's climb. Like I said, I think I sort of will imagine this turning into a little bit more of a beginner climb right here, maybe even a beginner lead climb through there. It's not great for top roping, but probably decent for something else. And that is the Information Bureau.